Do you constantly find yourself at odds with other people in your world? Are you the one that says, man, I don't think anyone ever gets what I'm really trying to say? Well, you're in the right place, because today we're going to teach you how to overcome all those communication issues. Hey, Marianne DeNovellis here, and today let's talk about communication. Okay, so communication, and let's be honest, guys, I'm just going to take a wild stab in the dark here and make a guess. My guess is that you're watching this video because somebody else has a problem. Let's get real here. Communication takes two parties. It takes a talker and a listener and a listener and a talker, and all these people are communicating with each other. It takes two to tango, so let's get nitty-gritty on what we can do to improve communication with you. First things first, you've probably heard this before, and I'll say it again because it's worth repeating. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use accordingly. 2 ears and 1 mouth means this. It means a lot of the times, let's be honest, we're communicating and listening and having a conversation and waiting for our turn to speak. Now just take a self-inventory for a moment. Ask yourself this question: how many times have you been talking to someone and you're just waiting for the break in their sentence? You're waiting for them to take a breath so that you can insert your opinion, your thought, or your recommendation. And just ask yourself, how often does that happen, that you're talking and listening in order to speak instead of listening in order to understand? How often does this happen in your world? What if you tried on something I call the reflective conversation? I grew up with a pilot in the family. In fact, several of them. My dad was a pilot. All my brothers are pilots. His dad was a pilot. And so communication was absolutely vital and very, very almost cutthroat in my family because they learned from the pilot training. If you ever read one of Malcolm Gladwell's books, you'll find that he talks about communication very, very effectively in his book. He talks about this airline, and this airline was flying somewhere out of Asia. And during this whole process, one of the pilots was trying to communicate with the tower that they were almost out of fuel and they needed a place to land and refuel. And what this pilot did is he radioed the tower and he said, "We're running low on fuel." He didn't tell them how much fuel they had. He didn't tell them how long they would last on the fuel. And he didn't have an airport nearby, and he didn't really communicate his intention very effectively. So when the tower radioed back, they said, okay, well, we're going to have you fly over to here in such and such a place and then refuel there. Now, what the tower didn't know was that that location was actually outside of the remaining fuel range. However, because of the class levels and the communication rules that they had in that country at that time, the pilot saw himself as less important than the tower. So the pilot took that instruction, knowing that they didn't have the fuel enough to get there, knowing that that fuel would be insufficient, that they would probably crash, and took that instruction and went with it, even though he knew that they wouldn't make it. That airplane ended up actually crashing. And a lot of lives were lost that day because of simple communications. Now, how do we bring that into our world? What does that mean? That maybe there's not, forgive the term, maybe there's not body bags on the line, but maybe there are. Maybe there are emotional ones or something in your spirit that will be totally damaged if effective communication is not in place. Now, because of that experience, airlines all around the world, in every single country, now have a standard communication system, which means that the pilot, if he's having trouble, can share that openly, never mind class systems, never mind formalities, never mind all of the things that can happen in miscommunication. There is a system for pilots to communicate, and part of that is a reflective conversation. Now, my dad was a pilot, and I can remember we took lots of road trips as kids. We drove all the way to Rhode Island from Denver. We would drive to Utah almost once a month from Denver. We had a lot of places and opportunities for navigation to take place, and effective clear, precise communication to come in very, very handy. Now, I'll never forget, I remember turning a corner in the passenger seat while my dad was driving, and I remember changing lanes with him. I remember doing all of these things where I was the navigator in that position and he was the pilot in the car. And a lot of the things that he would say to me was say, Marianne, I'm going to ask you if the road is clear. And you're going to respond with either clear or hold. Don't say not clear, because I might just hear the word clear and go for it when it's not clear. If it's time to hold, say hold. If it's clear, I'm going to hear clear and I'm going to go for it. This reflective communication, so he would confirm back to me. He would say, Marianne, am I clear? And I would look around, check my blind spots, and I would either say clear or hold. And my dad would respond, confirm clear, confirm hold. And I would be totally like, oh my gosh, are we really having to do this? I mean, we're not in a pilot seat. There's not 100 people behind us in the airplane. This is weird for father or daughter to be having to communicate this way. And for a long time, I thought, however strange it was effective. And what I learned from that, and even though in a lot of conversations you don't need to say confirm clear, confirm hold in that really stringent and professional manner, reflective conversation accomplishes the same thing. Think of it this way. Maybe you're having communication issues with a spouse. Maybe despite your best efforts, you're finding that a lot of people are misunderstanding what you have to say. Maybe that with your kids, you're having communication issues there. Maybe with clients and employees, you're finding that the lines of communication are muddled or maybe even non-existent. I'm going to invite you to try on this concept of the reflective conversation. Think of a reflection. A reflection is something that you see in the mirror. You see yourself in the mirror, but you don't see yourself exactly as you are. You see a reflection of yourself. You see your features are actually a mirrored version, not a carbon copy version. So it's not an exact replica of who you are. It's a perception of who you are. And when you have that reflective conversation, that's exactly what you're looking for. You're looking for the perception that the other person has of you. So when you're communicating something, and when I'm communicating something, I always like to ask this question, and I'm going to invite you to do the same thing. When you're communicating something that you need to make sure the other person understands, let's say, for example, you're meeting someone to go bowling at 7 o'clock. You say, hey, let's meet at the bowling alley at 7 o'clock. Now, what did you hear? Where are we meeting? Confirm that you heard. Are you understanding what I'm trying to say? Let me know what your perception is. That's my favorite one. Now, let me know what your thought is. What are your thoughts? The person may say, oh, I'm meeting you at the ultimate bowling lane tomorrow at 7 o'clock. No, actually, we're meeting at the Excalibur bowling alley tomorrow at 7 a.m. You see how the difference in perception is? They thought you were meeting at a different bowling alley at 7 o'clock, maybe it was p.m., and you meant another bowling alley at 7 o'clock a.m. When you ask for feedback on what you're sharing with people, you can understand more where they're coming from. And that way your lines of communication become totally clear. Another really important tip when it comes to communication is to do what Alan Redpath recommends, and that is to think. T-H-I-N-K. Think. Think before you speak. Now that's pretty commonplace. You've heard that before, but let's break it down into different parts. Talk about T in think. Is what you're communicating actually true? Do you actually know if what you're communicating is accurate? Does it represent the truth of what the real situation is? Especially when it comes to gossip, that's when gossip gets to take a hike and go out the door, because there's no way you can know it's true unless you've actually talked to the people involved. So ask yourself, is it true? Let's talk about H. Is it helpful? Is what you're communicating going to help the other party or help you as you communicate it? Maybe it's not helpful. Maybe, again, check gossip at the door, guys. Gossip I've never found to be helpful. In fact, it's the opposite of helpful. It's detrimental. Is what you're communicating helpful? I, inspiring. Is what you're communicating inspiring? Will it lift up someone else that you're talking to? Will it lift you up as you share it? And the funny thing about inspiring is you can't really lift up one without the other. If one of you is inspired by what you have to say, the other is inspired as well. Inspire with your words instead of damaging with your words. N. Is it necessary? Is this communication necessary? Now you could go super, super oracle on me and say, oh, I can't share anything that's not necessary. Does that mean I'm going to be a mute for half my life? Does that mean I don't get to share my ideas, my thoughts, my fun stuff? No. Necessary means, is it necessary for your intention? If your intention is to get someone to laugh, then whatever you have to say, that falls in that category. Is it necessary to coordinate? Absolutely. Necessary means, does it accomplish the goal that you're setting out to do? So if you're thinking about before you speak, ask yourself all of these questions as you come up. And as we come to the last one, this may be the underlying yet most important foundation for everything that you get to share. K stands for kind. Is what you have to share kind? And even if the news, maybe you have some news that isn't fun, isn't neat to share, can you share it with a kind heart? The kind has less to do about your message and more with your intention. Is my intention to be kind? Is my intention to share with love? Is my intention to create connection between me and the person I'm talking to? So before you speak, think. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? And is it kind? When you're communicating with someone in your world, a spouse, a child, an employee, a client, one of the most important things to do while remembering that you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth is to ask for permission. There's a rule in life that says connect before you correct, especially if you're in a position of stewardship, either you're a boss or a parent. You want to connect before a correction needs to be made. And then on top of that, you're going to want to ask for feedback. Those two things, asking for permission and being open to feedback at the end, are what is going to draw the heart in your communication. Because let's face it, the whole reason we're communicating is to be on the same sheet of music. And when we're not on the same sheet of music, we fall out of harmony. There is discord, sometimes contention, sometimes confusion, and that's not the purpose of any communication that I have ever found to be helpful. So while you're thinking before you speak, remember to ask permission and be open for feedback and ask for feedback. Because when someone feels heard, they feel that they're a part of what is being created. And when you can feel like you're a part of what is being created, you are invested in the result. You want to know how to up-level your communication? Keep in mind that it starts with you. Okay, so now you know all the secrets to what it takes to create amazing communication in all of your relationships. Go click the link below. We're going to be holding an event right here in Utah very, very soon. We would love to see you there. Hit the subscribe button and we'll see you tomorrow.